happened was revealed by the sight of a solid stone wall.
Coming up.
So I was, let's see, I can't remember exactly. Well, what in effect happened was that seeing this, I abandoned the sled.
Leaving
Wendy! Oh my!
to smash up.
Didn't smash it. What?
Into the wall?
Yes. to crash.
But she didn't see fit to tumble off.
Well, she probably couldn't see as much as I could see.
Anyway.
So was she injured?
Not so she was okay, basically. I mean, she might have been bruised, but no broken bones. But
right.
The main thing was that she was really incredulous that someone would do that to her. Like,
just jump off the sled.
It's like if you could,
abandon her to her fate.
If you couldn't save us, then you should have gotten me off along with you.
Instinct.
Yeah. Anyway, she'd tell that story
to other people, much to Dad's chagrin, perhaps. So I seem to remember that Dad didn't. When I got a romantic concept of proposals, I once asked you, so how did Dad propose to you? And it was very sort of, oh, he didn't really. So how did that work?
I think we sort of knew.
We started talking about it in terms of a future together.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed to fit, as it seemed natural to speak of future. And,
yeah. In a sense, there's no necessity of a formal proposal since we were informally engaged.
But then, I do remember, so this is like, I think in December, we sort of felt as though we ought to be acknowledging realistically to the community that we were serious.
Right.
So at Christmas, we told Edith and Uncle Fran that we would like to commit and to become engaged. Mm-hmm. So we set a date for that, which is my birthday, February 25th. Mm-hmm. So that's from December and then to February. We will, all things being equal, we would like to. So then
to get married February 25th?
No, to become officially engaged. Like
okay.
We're serious. We want to step towards this. Mm-hmm. So I don't know when Dad got a ring. It was sometime we were in Lausanne and we got this ring, which was my wedding ring, but to be an engagement ring for the time, which was a Swiss
custom
convention. In fact, it was funny because at the time, in some parts of Switzerland, I don't know if it's Catholic or Protestant, you would wear a ring on your left hand until you were married, and then you would wear it on your right hand. And in other parts, you would wear it on your right hand until you were married and wore it on your left hand.
It can be very confusing.
So you might see a woman with a wedding ring on, but you couldn't tell
which was
if
which.
she's from Valais. But it's sort of, I think it's a nice custom.
Right.
And we bought it, what was that street on the way down to the station?
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe for 100 francs? About $25?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And but I do remember, you know, we kept on. We'd take walks and stuff, and we were deeply, you know, conversing and all. And then I said, you know, you never actually asked me to marry you, so I think you should.
This is before or after the ring?
Before the ring,
Okay.
but after the sort of like,
Right.
hey, we're gonna get engaged. But wait a minute. So, I can't remember if I made you get down on one knee, but anyway.
Certainly not inside the jeweler's shop.
No, I meant
On the
oak-
mountain road.
Yeah, near the oak clay on the Panay
I
Road.
think that probably took place.
What I like is leaping forward to the 21st century is Stephen proposing to Aunt Lydia. And I said, and did you get down on one knee? And he said, I would have gotten down on both knees. It's like, yes.
Whatever I had to do.
Whatever.
Oh.
Oh,
And
well,
of course,
anyway.
Dad has never worn a ring because that's not the custom in England, or at least has not been in the past. Yeah, it's interesting.
So there are pictures of me on that 25th of February wearing a red velvet dress, which I cannot. I'm not sure exactly why I had it. It was a bridesmaid's dress from someone's wedding, and a friend gave it to me, like, just in case you need something. And it's like, oh, this is just the occasion.
Yeah,
For
I don't
me
know
to
where. I feel like
appear
I've seen those photos,
in
but I don't know where they
a,
are.
deep rosy red. And with my hair done up.
It has to be said that Francis Schaeffer did not approve of the
Oh.
marriage.
He didn't.
No.
And why was that?
He said, let's see, I think he said something to the effect that he'd changed his mind about me or something like that. And to prove it, when we had the birthday celebration, which was also the engagement celebration, at the point at which the master of the house would normally say something appropriate, there was a total silence. And in fact, a mature guest at the chalet at that time, whose name I'm forgetting, stepped into the breach. I think, perhaps by praying or something like that. Do you remember that? I remember that very clearly.
I wish you remembered who it was.
There were
Not Ranald.
no,
Rupert
no.
Studd?
He was a guest.
Oh.
It was he worked for Young Life. Young Life has sent him there to L'Abri for the experience.
So when was your family clued in? The rest of your family clued in, Mom?
So the time
And your
between
family does,
Christmas
yeah.
and February 25th gave us time to talk to our families. My mother and father felt as though, well, we don't know anything about it, but this young man is known to Edith and Francis, and he's worked with them, and so if his bona fides are good, then it must be okay.
In fact, they're questionable.
I know, at that point.
And then Jeremy's father was very negative and said, you should not, you're too young, you haven't established yourself, and you should wait. Did he think?
Until you've bought some appropriate furniture.
Is that what he said?
No.
I can't remember if he said a certain period, like you should wait 2 years, or you should,
Or something like that, yeah.
or a year or two, or I can't remember, but I think it was pretty like, just wait. This is, you're rushing into this. You're not really in a position to marry. Of course, being young and foolish, we didn't think much of that. Of course, we're very old.
Very wise. We know it.
We know what we're doing. Anyway, Jeremy's mother and father were very welcoming to me, and knowing more history, I think they were very tolerant, because there was a certain amount of suspicion and really disapproval of Americans widespread in England in the 50s and going into the 60s. Just left over from the war that, oh, the Americans, I don't know, Americans think they're so great. But really,
I'm not so sure about all of this.
didn't you find that?
There is a more interesting comment with regard to my father's disapproval or reticence.
Reservations.
Was that he had run away with my mother. He had asked. He'd gone with my mother to my mother.
To Ima's father,
Yeah.
to
And
ask for her hand.
asked for a hand, which was denied him. He also had no prospects. So my father took my mother to the local registry office, a JP,
Right.
and marched her back to her house and presented himself. And I think the exact words, I don't know whether they're mythical or what, but something like, "We are married, old man."
I think his father-in-law stood up and,
Oh, that's right. That's
you,
right.
I told you to leave and not come back. And he said, sit down, we're married. And
Old
Dad
man,
thinks he
right.
said, sit down, old man, we're married.
Right.
Which indeed took the wind out of his sails.
Right. So you feel like your father his misgivings might have been that he recognized in retrospect that he was foolhardy in his rush to get married, or
It's possible. I don't know. Not as if we ever had a conversation about
right?
it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, judging by Dad's reaction to his children's future, which I think I keep saying you, Dad, which
Right.
is speaking to Kate, but
Right.
to the universe, to everyone else. Jeremy is like Herbert in having deep misgivings and fears. And so Jeremy's father, Herbert Jackson, feared the worst, which may have come out earlier in this interview. And so he used to say, I shudder to think what kind of world my children are going to live in. And then as he got older, I shudder to think the troubles that my grandchildren will face. And of course, Scripture does teach that things will tend to get worse. And so in some ways it's like, yeah, they probably will get worse. But it was just that he was so concerned about that aspect of people going to suffer. But whatever Dad and my difficulties were as children came along, and as Dad is writing in his journal, squeaking by, we had the Lord's promises to go by, which we claimed. Whereas when Millicent and Herbert had 3 children under 5, and Brandon with his double hernia and Jillian with her whooping cough, they did not believe in a Heavenly Father. So they were very much at sea. And I think that me ma had a temper, and me dad drank, and so there were some pretty sad scenes, I'd say. And we know that she, left at least once. Maybe, I don't know if that's a bump.
With or without the children?
With the children. I mean, she just said, she just cleared out. Like, okay, that's enough. So, of course, that Millicent was one that I did not know. Just a flash or two made me think, oh, so this is the woman that took John by the hair and scrambled him around the room. But most of the time, her feelings were strong and deep, but not evident in wild times. Anyway, so perhaps Herbert wished to save his son from that scenario.
The difficulties of pressure of not having money,
Of being young and not having money,
prospects, and
yeah,
right. And
so first got a job, and
whereas your parents were like, sure, have her.
Well, if
the Schaefers approve, we're fine with it.
If you think.
Of course, Edith is your mother's
So at
sister,
the time that my uncle Francis said, I have reservations about Jeremy. Since my original approval, I have reservations. And Edith, with all due respect, said, well, I really am not concerned that this man is not suitable, and whatever, not to say he's not a sinner, whatever, but I can't really say I would not approve of this marriage or engagement
for your niece,
wedding.
for my niece, right?
Yeah, so that was interesting. Working out of respect and marriage. So he had reservations, and she, I'm sure, she didn't think everything was going to be hunky-dory, but she didn't have any deep reservations about Dad's character.
Right,
So,
and in the end, Francis Schaeffer embraced, I mean, he got over that because then he worked together quite a bit after that. So that must have been still, those fears were stilled eventually. Of you're not being a good match for Mom, eventually, whatever it was that concerned him,
yes, the fears that he had
were allayed.
or the reservations.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot more to this than you know or I'd ever talk about. But there's the time when I was at L'Abri coincided with a time of a potential crisis time in the continuation of L'Abri.
Okay.
And in various ways. resolve themselves, including the problem of my relationship with him and his with me. We never ever, actually, it's not true. I was going to say we never ever talked about that. It's not true. I did talk about that with him. The conversation was more or less one way. I think he found it difficult to talk about it. And his way, in a sense, that he was very, very happy to have me on board for the Schaefer film series. And I'm quite sure that for him that was his way of clearing the deck. And he was generous to us. As I note going through my journal, he was generous to us on several occasions financially.